on the world, and my view on the world has been shaped by my father's view. My father was obviously American intelligence, so I guess I should be very, very pro-West. But when you look at the world for what it actually genuinely is, I believe the Russians have had a pretty hard deal. And I believe that in the West, we are sold and we are told that the Russians are always the bad guys. The Russians are doing the bad thing in Syria. The Russians are doing this bad. The Russians are doing that bad. When in reality, we do the bad things. We funded a whole bunch of groups in Syria so they'd fight ISIS. Those groups are fighting ISIS and the legitimate government and fuck knows who else, because we don't know who they're fighting. And Russia's just blowing up anyone who's not the government. I agree with Russia. I think they're doing the right thing. We talk about Russia being aggressive because they annexed Crimea. But if you look at the post-USSR world, who's been aggressive? The USSR had all these countries as buffer states between Russia and the West. They had Hungary, they had Slovakia, they had Belarus, they had Ukraine. They had all these countries as buffer states between the Russia, between the USSR and between the West. And now, since the USSR has fallen, all those countries have joined the EU. So who's been aggressive when all the countries that were previously USSR have now all joined the EU, all joined NATO, all put in anti-missile systems along their border, all have tanks along their border? Imagine Russia bought Ireland. What would England be saying? You know,
so back our Guinness.
Exactly. So our Guinness. So who's the aggressive ones? We're the aggressive ones. We want to take all the buffer states away, put the European Union and NATO, which is an unfightable force. Russia stands 0% chance in a war against NATO. Literally zero. They don't stand a chance in a war against America alone, let alone NATO. So 0% chance, and you want to bring it right up to the Russian border. We're in Romania right now, and there's a bunch of American soldiers around, and there's a big fucking thing on the news and problems going on because they're building an anti-missile system in Russia, here in Romania, on the Russian border. The whole idea of nuclear weapons is that it's a mutual destruction. That's the idea, is that we fire one, you fire one, mutually destroyed, so no one uses nukes. America's putting in anti-missile systems everywhere, so you can't ever nuke the EU, you can't ever nuke America. So that means they have nukes and Russia doesn't. So it takes the balance away again. And that's the whole point of it. So they're just expanding NATO, expanding the EU at a rate now where Turkey can shoot down a Russian fighter jet on its way to Syria. There's a Russian fighter jet on its way to Syria that was in Turkish airspace for less than 4 seconds, got shot down, killed the jet, killed the pilot. Would Turkey dare do that to Russia if Turkey wasn't a member of NATO? No, they shoot the guy's jet down when it has a 3-second airspace violation. It wasn't taking the piss. 3 seconds, they shoot him out of the sky, kill the guy, then they call America, oh, we pissed Russia off. If they come get us, can you save us? That's bullshit. So who's starting the problems? We are. Putin, if you actually listen to him, is one of the smartest, most logical men on the planet. And that's why I'm so happy Trump won, because Trump has enough brain to sit down with Putin man to man and prevent World War III. Clinton and her fucking bullshit was going to literally spark the beginning of a world war with this anti-Russian rhetoric. We've already fucked Russia every way we could. Wars aren't fought on the battlefield anymore. Wars are fought in completely different ways. Wars are fought electronically, wars are fought economically. And even now, if you look at the news where people are saying that the Russians helped Trump win because they hacked the Hillary emails and they leaked all her emails prior to the campaign, they helped Trump win. Well, maybe they did the right thing. Maybe they actually understood that if Trump gets in, there can actually be some genuine cooperation between the West and Russia, as opposed to Clinton, who's a career politician, who's been trained to be anti-Russia so long that she wants to fuck Russia out of every single business deal, grow the EU, grow NATO, put weapons on their borders, and then think, well, what are they mad for? Russians are the bad guys. You know? We've already devalued the Russian ruble. This is how a war is fought. After MH17, when that plane got shot down over Ukraine, no one still knows who did it. We say it's the Russians, people others say it's Ukraine or separatists or whatever. When that got shot down, America makes a phone call to Saudi Arabia and all the other OPEC countries to stop producing oil. No, sorry, says flood the market with oil. All these oil producing companies flood the market with oil. Because you got to do as America says. All your oil barrels, flood it, flood it, flood it. The price of oil drops 70% within a week, and the Russian ruble's worth half the value. Literally within 3 days of that happening, the Russian ruble went down half the value. Imagine you have a currency and it's worth half of what it was. So you saved up £1 million your whole life, now you got 500 grand. Bang. That's war. That's war already fought. So how are Russia the bad guys? We don't even know who shot the plane down. The West are the bad guys. The West are completely the bad guys. Since World War II, America's owned the world. They've done whatever the fuck they wanted. They thought that if they're in control of it, nothing bad will happen. And it's been nothing but complete war, devastation, destruction. So I genuinely think in most scenarios, Russia are the smart guys. I think Russia's a pretty good country.
Good answer. Let's go straight to Trump from there.
Trump's the man.
People hated the idea of Trump. Yeah, because Trump was demonized as the worst thing to ever happen to politics.
Yeah, because these are leftist. These are little leftist, easily offended hippies. They don't have any concept of the real world. What people don't understand is People say to me, oh, Andrew's violent, Andrew's this, Andrew's that. What I understand about the world that most people don't is that the world requires balance. It's the oldest thing in the world. It's like the Chinese philosophy of yin and yang. You got the black and the white. You need to have someone who's smart, but you also need to have someone who understands violence and understands that violence has an applicable role. Nowadays, leftists want to go through the world and they think violence is wrong. This is wrong, that's wrong. Violence isn't wrong. Violence is subjective. If someone breaks into your house and wants to hurt your family, you're going to get violent. So it depends. Everything has a place on this planet. Leftists don't understand this. So they get so easily offended by someone or by something and they think it's 100% bad. Trump's not 100% bad. Trump has a place. There's place for people like Trump, and I currently genuinely believe his place is at the head of the United States of America. Who was the alternative? Hillary, a career politician. Literally, what amazes me most is all these lefts who complain about Trump. They complain about the establishment and they complain about the corporations, and then they want to get Hillary in power. Hillary is completely what you dislike. She has pretty much no career her whole life besides being in politics. That's all she's ever done. And she sucked the right dick of Bill's, so now she gets a chance to be president. How does that work? Trump is the American dream personified. The American dream is you can make your own money, you can get rich, you can be president. That's what he's done. He started with $1 million, fair enough, but he's become a billionaire. So he ain't stupid. He knows what he's doing. He's become the president of the United States. What's wrong with that? But leftists won't accept it. No, he's wrong. He once said one bad thing about someone once. People say bad things about people. Welcome to the real world. If we just drop the bullshit and all stop getting so easily offended by stupid little things and drop the dumb shit and look at the actual reality of the earth, there's not a single person on this planet, including the leftist hippies who hate Trump, who haven't said a bad thing about someone at some point. That's how the world fucking functions. He said some bad things about some people, big whoop. He's gonna be a better president than Hillary ever would have. So get the fuck over it. Trump is a G. And the worst thing about it all, what amazes me most, is that most of the people crying, it's not gonna affect their lives anyway. Like people are like, oh, Trump's gonna be you smoke weed, you work in an antique shop. What the fuck does it matter if Trump is president or not? Really, Lucy, 21 from Scunthorpe, what the fuck does it matter if Trump's president or Hillary's president or there is no president? You are literally achieving pretty much next to nothing with your life. Next to nothing. You're not in politics. You haven't got fucking stocks and shares in companies that matter. Literally, most of the people I saw complaining about Trump on Facebook either A, didn't really understand politics in the first place, or B, it would not affect them who's president anyway. If you're broke, you're gonna stay broke. If you're rich, you're gonna stay rich. Politics has actually very little effect on someone's life. The only thing politics can do is set a few laws like don't kill, don't rob, don't steal. Besides these basic outlines, you've got people like me who are gonna go and become millionaires on their own, and you've got people who just sit around going, I'm not rich because of the conservatives, I'm not rich because of Trump, I'm not rich, and just excuse makers. Just excuse makers. It doesn't matter who's in charge, you're still gonna be a shit muncher. So what the fuck do you care for? Of course you hate Trump. You're a hippie, your hair's too long, you ain't got a job, you wanna walk up and down the street saying, down with Trump, like putting someone else in there is gonna change shit. It ain't gonna change a thing, you're still gonna stink, you're still gonna need to shave your armpits, Lucy. Fuck you.
May I ask you a serious question?
Absolutely.